How to heal the mother wound and embody your femininity once and for all. Hello, my name is Chengi and I am your dating and relationship expert, founder and CEO of Black Swan Relationship Academy, course creator, and general there for you girl, mother to the motherless, sister to the sisterless. I am everything that you will need to navigate your relationships with high value masculine men. And so if that sounds good to you and you are ready to start your high value feminine journey, you are in the right place. And I want to thank you all so much for your support of all of my coaches who have been working tirelessly on themselves to really be able to come in front of the camera and bare their souls with you, so that you can get to know them. So if you haven't caught up with any of the videos that the coaches has done, please go and get to know them, get to know their backstory, get to know what brings them here, so that you can build the same love affair with them that you have with me, because they will be bringing you some good content to help you out on this channel. And I hope that you're enjoying the daily breakout videos for you here on this channel. So let's get right into it, because I know why you're here. I know why you clicked this video title. If you are new to this channel, do not forget to subscribe to this channel, and if you like anything that you hear, please hit that like button, and do not forget to hit that notification bell. You know the drill. Become part of the Black Swan family, because every woman is welcome here. We love you here at Black Swan Relationship Academy. So you are here because you identify that you have a mother wound. You know, and you've seen the first part of this video. If you haven't, it will be on this channel, and I have done a video about the 10 dangerous mother wounds. These are not the only mother wounds, but they're definitely the ones that occur way more. And you know, you are here because maybe you didn't realize you had a mother wound, or maybe you realize, oops, I think I might have a mother wound. But what do we do about it? How do we heal it? How do we move forward? This is really what's important. To be fair with you, it has been a very difficult task for me to do this other side of the video. Almost tempted not to do it at all. And the reason for that is because this is such a deep work, right? This is such a deep work. And to be honest, a 20-minute or 30-minute video really will not cut it for many of us. For some of us, depending on the wound that we have, we will be able to use some of these things that I'm going to teach you. In fact, everybody can try out these tools and see how far you go with the wound. But for some of us, and for most of us, you're going to need some kind of therapy or counseling or coaching with myself or any of the coaches. And you know, these wounds, especially if you have identified that you had a narcissistic mom, if you had a narcissistic parent in general, but also in the case that we're speaking about, the mother wound, if you had a narcissistic mom, this is highly, if your mother was a psychopath, sociopath, narcissist, this is not something that this video is going to be able to tackle, because these people get their kicks off wounding their infants and wounding the young. It's vile, and it's horrible, and it's deliberate. So you know, I can't begin to unravel the kind of work that you would need to do if this was your story. But I have not left you without help. You can just book a call. That's all you have to do. Just book a call. The link is in the description box. We're here for you. I'm here for you. Take your hand and walk you through the journey to recovery. I do want to deliver some good news though. You can absolutely win. You can heal. You can heal any wound. The human soul and the human spirit is so capable. It has its own immune system. Just like the body can fight off disease by itself most times without intervention, so also is the human soul able to really self-heal, and really, if it's supported properly, if you support the body well, it will function, and it will help. It's got a whole very complex system. In the same way, we have a very complex and unique system of healing the soul and healing psychological and emotional wounds if you are supported appropriately. So I really want to beseech you to really seek healing in this situation, because if you don't take this seriously, you will perpetually go into a cycle that will never end of dating your mother, courting your mother, being married to your mother. You will always seek that adult relationship, that infant relationship with your adult relationships. So I really want to beseech you to really make the time and the investment. And if we are not the right team for you, please find a way to go to some kind of therapy, even if it's funded by somebody. But do make sure that you go to a professional to heal. I think I've said that very clearly in this video. And I just want to continue to give you some of the tools that I have used with my clients to really help them heal from the mother wound. So regardless of the wound that you have, obviously if you're working with me or my coaches one-to-one, we can isolate the type of mothering and the type of fathering you had, and we can help you work on that specifically. But in this instance, I'm just going to give you some general advice that will be healthy for you to do anyway. So in no particular order, let's start with mindset. Everything comes out of mindset, out of paradigm. So I just want us to shift mindset for a minute. And I want you for a second to not see your mother as the mother, the goddess, the deity, the woman that you just adore, the woman who, as an infant, you had no other perception except that she is a goddess. I want you to shift mindsets with me for just a minute, and let's take your mom and take her crown off, and let's just make her a woman. Okay, let's make her a woman, and let's begin to look at her story. This was really powerful for me, and it's very powerful for my clients, because often we're still looking at the woman with that infantile perception, with that awe, rather than, and then with that comes deep disappointment, and the hurts and the pain sink even deeper, because a mother is supposed to love you and accept you. A mother is supposed to reflect a empathetic world to you. It's supposed to reflect joy and welcome and warmth. A mother is supposed to be your best cheerleader. A mother is supposed to be your one safe space. And because that wasn't the truth for you, it wasn't your reality, you cannot reconcile this woman. But what is a woman supposed to be? Because the woman becomes the mother. The woman, the unprepared, the broken, hurt, unloved woman is only qualified to be a mother because she's got fertile eggs in her body that were inseminated by sperm, but she has the resources of the woman that she was and is in that time. Can we isolate mother from woman and really begin to look at it? And I'm going to share with you my personal story. Healing my mother wound, she had to stop being mom and become Ellen. Who is Ellen? Who was she? Who was she when she married my father? What was her life like? I became curious. I wanted to know. I decided, let me get to know the woman. If I was writing an autobiography about this woman, I would want to hear her story. I would want to know who the woman was, because when I understand the woman, then I will understand. And I'm not saying that, you see, the Bible says, in all of your getting, get understanding. You see, it's not about giving excuses for her being the mother that she was or was not. It's about understanding so that you can take the next step. Often we try to forgive people out of thin air. Forgiveness is a process. It is a process we have to break down and not be afraid to look at the ugly and have critical thought around it. We have to be able to look at what happened, why it happened, who it happened through, and then look at, who we are now. Can we reflect on what could have been happening with them in that moment with us? Because once we can reconcile that, we will find that it's easier to forgive pretty much anybody. You see, God can see the full picture. That's why he forgives us, because he knows when you did that thing, you were feeling that way, you were in that circumstance. He knows exactly what was going on internally, emotionally around you. And so he forgives because he just understands. Does he excuse it? Do you still get a slap on the wrist? Of course you do. But at the end of the day, and of course he doesn't excuse it, he will still guide you in the right way, but he forgives, he lets it go because he can see. And so we have to almost ascend to a godlike nature, okay? We have to think, okay, if I were God and I had a bird's eye view on my mom's life, what would that look like? And when I started to look at my mother's life, I saw a young woman who was beautiful and surrounded by men who were not able to really protect her. She tells me the story of the fact that she always wanted to be a nurse, and her mother had been saving money to send her to England, and her mom had saved enough for her daughter to go to England. And I think of a Zimbabwe in Africa where that being a possibility, how hard would my grandmother have had to work as a stay-at-home mom who was married, in colonial Africa. And she'd saved every penny in order to send her daughter to nursing school in England, as most people did at the time who were and could afford it. Then one day, she tells a story of the fact that, well, her brother found the kitty of money that grandma had saved, and he took that money and he used it as dowry for his bride. And so now my mother's dream was over. This was a woman who had her dream taken away in her early 20s. So now, where she had all of these men pursuing her and she had been dreaming of England, she now became the aged woman who was unmarried. At the age of 25 in her time, you may as well have been 45 trying to get married for the first time. It was considered old. And so the same brother who took her money went and found her, my dad, knowing some of the things about my dad that were not so great. My dad had his own wounds, had his own trauma. And yes, working on my father's wound, I had to see Dad as a man and really reflect on his story. And so she gets married to this man, and he's all she has. She has already abandoned her desire to be a nurse. She's already abandoned her dream. And now she has this man who never comes home, except for when she's pregnant. My mother tells a story of the fact that when she was pregnant and with an infant in the home, Daddy would come home. And in order to justify some of his philandering behavior, God rest his soul, she would always try to stay pregnant. So she had 7 of us. But what would happen is, obviously, when we got to a certain age where we were a bit more mature, around the 5, 6, 7 mark, she would try to get pregnant again, but then there would be a sense of discarding. And that began to explain to me why I was so loved. My mom was so loving, so kissy, she would give me the world. And then when I got to the age of 6, it's like I didn't exist anymore. It's like I was this soul that did not exist. She'd forget my birthday. She'd forget anything about me. It's like I was just this ghost. And so I felt neglected, felt abandoned. I felt like nobody loves me, but that's because she was trying to regulate her emotions. I don't have an infant anymore. That means my husband is not going to come home. This was not a conscious thought. She now was focusing on having another baby. My mother would sometimes stand at the door and say, I wish you were all boys. I had 7 kids because I was just trying to have another boy. She would take out that frustration on us, not even realizing, bless her, that she was harming us or wounding us. But then I realized as I began to ask her and listen to her story that my dad would say to her, I would stay with you and I would be faithful to you if you gave me a boy. And so there was so much and so many layers behind the way that my mom would react. And in that moment, because I was curious, because I gave her a chance and I wanted to know, and she opened up and she was willing to share things so deep that I cannot even begin to share with you. And in that moment, I had compassion. You see, sometimes what kept Jesus on the cross was not the fact that we were good people, because we were jeering at him on the cross. We were there calling him names. The Jews, everybody was out there making Jesus' life a misery, but he stayed on that cross because of compassion, because he knew the backstory. And in life, I believe that if we only had more compassion, and sometimes we need to put that compassion towards our mothers. And I know that there's some of you listening here today who have written off your mother and thrown her in the bin and never want to see her again. Some of you are happy she died, and some of you can't wait for her to die. I understand. For many years, I was that girl. I used to think, why did my dad have to go first? My dad was always there for me. He was my number one chief supporter. He had time for me. He listened to me. He was my guy. Why did he have to go first? But I am so grateful that she didn't, that I got a chance to really hear her story from within herself. And so this is really important. Whether she has the fortitude or the wherewithal to tell you her story, or if you have to do some research, I would say go and find out, who is this woman? Who is she? Because perhaps that will give you understanding and compassion towards her and allow you to forgive. Does that mean you're gonna flow into this perfect best friend relationship? My mother and I had to, after hearing her story and accepting that she was a woman doing the best she could under the worst and most difficult circumstances that any woman in the modern day will probably not tolerate for 2 seconds. When I started to have compassion towards her, I decided that I would make an effort. But I knew that we did not have any foundations. I knew that for all my life, I did everything I could to avoid her. The moment I could get away, I was out. But I realized I'm gonna take some time and reach out. And it started with 15-minute phone calls. Just a quick phone call. And we would talk for 10 minutes, and then I would get triggered over something. And then in that case, I would just put the phone down. Now my mother and I, we can be on the phone for 2 hours, laughing and joking. She doesn't have to be my mother anymore. Which leads me to the next point. Sometimes we feel like we have to restore that mother-daughter relationship. But it's okay. Once a woman is over the age of 10, 12, once you are over the age of 10, you'll find that all you are is an adult relative. It's okay for your mother to be an adult relative. That's all. An adult relative like your auntie is perfectly okay. You don't have to have the mother-daughter bond. We don't have to try and dig up what we lost. I remember I was driving with my sister one day and we were going somewhere, and she was talking about the things she wanted to do with her life and the things she was always hoping to do. And I said to her, you can still do them. And she said something to me in Shona, in my language. She said, I'm going to translate it for you. It ended in its time. And it really sat with me, and I realized what she was saying is this. There's a time and a season for everything under the sun. And she was quite comfortable to say that season of my life is over. It is not something that I crave anymore. It's something I should have done when I was young. I didn't do it. It's over. I've made peace with it. And now I'm going to explore more glorious things, newer things for myself. And it really touched me because I realized that often we're not willing to accept that there's a time and a season for things. And sometimes that time is gone. The time when you needed to be cuddled by mommy, that time is gone. The time that you needed her to be your bestie and to support you and to be there, it's gone. We can't go back into the past and try to recreate that. And often we're wounded and hurt because we're going towards mother expecting her to make up for the past, but we cannot. Sometimes we have to be okay to have what we have. And maybe mother is not even interested in meeting you halfway. But when you do that work of knowing the woman, you'll also understand that that woman also has shame. And that woman feels regret. And that woman hasn't got any coping skills. Many of our mothers would dream for an opportunity to have a Black Swan Relationship Academy around. They did not have that. Many would dream for the opportunity to sit in a therapist's office. But this was not an option for them. My mother tells me that every time she tried to free herself from her marriage to my dad, my grandmother would say, go back to your husband, we don't leave men. And every time she would run home and say, it's not working, grandmother would send her back. If she had had a Black Swan Relationship Academy, if she had had a therapist or counselor or somebody who was professional, trained, and knew how to help her, she would have made a very different set of decisions. But this was often the only answer given to our mothers. Sometimes it makes me weep and cry. And to be honest, my desire now is to really honor my mother and do the very best for her. I want to give her everything that she could not have. And I dream of the day that I can do something so meaningful and purposeful for her, because I see the loss. And now, instead of feeling so broken and so unloved, I start to see how brave she was. And this is the next point. Can you see it from a different perspective? Can you shift perspective for just a minute? And this is the work I do with my clients. Perhaps we can shift perspective, and instead of looking at the story we've been telling ourselves, that we don't matter, that we were not worthy, all of which are natural things in an environment of emotional neglect or abandonment by the mother. They're all natural. But perhaps if we would stop and arrest the narratives and the stories that are running in our head and maybe tell a new story. That was what I was able to do. And then I started to realize how so fortunate I was to have a mother like her. Oh my goodness. She was raising 6 children, and when I was born, I got a younger sister, she's got 7. She was raising 6 kids under that pressure, in so much emotional turmoil. But guess what? Look who she birthed and raised, because despite it all, she made Chengi. She actually raised a Chengi. Yes, a wounded, imperfect, not so great, but because of her wounds and her brokenness, she created a mother in me. She created a Black Swan. She taught me so much. And then instead of looking at all the things she didn't do, I started to look at all the things she did do. She taught me to present myself. She taught me how to, when I was a shy, introverted little girl, she forced me to go into acting classes. And she taught me to sit next to boys because I was really shy of boys. And because of that, I was able to spend a lot of time around boys and really get to learn male psychology at a very intuitive level. She taught me how to always present myself as a woman before the world. And I am what I am because the little that she had the grace to teach me has taken me further. And then I began to look at the 4th point. Can you look at the situation? Can you look at the good? Can you think, okay, maybe mom gave me away because she knew I deserved better. She knew that if she kept me, she wouldn't be able to give me the life I now have. Look at me, I'm a CEO, I'm a doctor now. I have a career, I'm somebody, right? And maybe I wouldn't have had that if she didn't love me enough, if I didn't matter enough to her, for her to sacrifice her desire that every woman has to keep me and gave me away. Perhaps we can begin to look at the other side of the coin, because for all the hurt, sometimes there's the other. And when I was able to see that, oh, mom did good. She fought for me to go to private school. She fought for me to live in suburbia. She fought for me to go to England. My mother was always fighting for me, but I didn't see it because I was just so wounded. Sometimes when we begin to turn the coin, we will see that you got to adulthood. You made it. And she was there. My mother is always there. And now I look at her and I think, but you were always there. You just didn't know how to hold me. You didn't know how to guide me. She used to yell and scream at me all the time. My mom doesn't know that I'm an empath who's highly sensitive. I'm a highly sensitive person. This is a trait I was born with, and I'm empathetic. I can't take being spoken to in a harsh way. That's me. If you want anything out of me, speak gently to me, and you'll get anything out of me. But if you're harsh to me, I have to only withdraw from you. I cannot be in your company, or the lion in me will come and destroy you. There's no 2 ways about it. But she had no idea that she needed to speak gently to me. But as I've built that relationship with her, she's able to speak gently with me. And then point number 4, we can begin. In that way, we find a more empowering narrative. We find a more compassionate narrative. And we give ourselves room to heal. And perhaps when you have done all of that work, sometimes what we want to do is tell her about herself. But here's what we need to do. This is an exercise I give to my clients all the time, and this is point number 4, exercise number 4. Write her a letter. When you have done all the research and you understand the woman that she is, write her a letter. Narrate her story in the letter. Tell her, I understand. But also own your feelings. Mom, I was really hurt. I felt broken and unloved, like I didn't matter. And whilst I understand that, to really have been about you processing your feelings, it really hurt me and it wounded me and it caused me to manifest in these different ways. But at the end of the day, I want to heal now. I'm healing. And I hope that we can begin to rebuild the story. Or I hope you're happy. It doesn't matter if your mother is alive or your mother is dead or your mother speaks to you or not. This letter is not about her. It's about you. Because inside of you, there's way too much sitting there dormant. Accepting and recognizing our feelings and our truths is the beginning of healing. Even if they're ugly, even if they're uncomfortable, even if they're very, very vulnerable, it's okay. This is a very important exercise for you to do. The next letter you need to write is a letter to your younger self. That girl, that little girl, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, teenager. Tell her that it's going to be okay, boo-boo. We're going to survive this. We're going to learn to be healthy. Tell her. Because often it is not the grown woman that is weeping on the inside of you and choosing broken men. It is often the inner child. That woman within, the little girl who's never ever been told it's going to be okay. Pain is one thing, suffering is another. Pain is the thing that is happening to us and the feeling that we feel in that moment. That's legit, that's healthy, it produces purpose. Suffering is the feeling that the pain will never go away. Sometimes we need to, if we cannot find somebody from without, to tell us and to hold that little girl, because often there was no one to comfort her. There was no one to hold her. There was no one to say, the pain will end. You're going to be okay. So now you have to be her. This work is tough. It's a lot. It's difficult. It's painful. And I would rather you did it with the help of a professional. I would rather you go to a therapist. I would rather you came for coaching. I would rather you found a professional to really work through this. When I work with my clients, they're exhausted in the first 15 minutes because it's a lot of work to do. And sometimes you just need to co-regulate with somebody to help you manage those emotions. If you can, the next point is to have a conversation with your mother. When you've written the letter and you have at least a working relationship with your mom, sit down with her, have a conversation. Say to her, Mom, just a version of what you wrote. And perhaps you will start to build up your relationship and maybe find a friendship with this amazing woman who did her best. I had a comment in the comment section, and really I believe it was from a mother who feels wounded by her own children. I want you to understand that healing the mother wound is not about hurting her. And if your children were so wounded by you because you were the wounding mother, you need to allow them to heal, and you need to support their healing. And I will do a course because one of you has requested that I do, and because there's so much to this process and so much to this subject matter that it might probably require a digital course that might take 4 hours or 5 hours to work through. But all I can say to you, if you're the mother that has wounded your children and your children now resent you and they don't want anything to do with you and you're experiencing a lot of pain, there are things that you can do, but the first thing you need to do is heal your own mother wound. It's easy to try and get your kids back and get them to appreciate you and love you, but you have your own mother wound, and if you can heal that, then you will know exactly what your children need. And the beautiful thing about energy is when you are healed, things start to gravitate to you. Your kids will want to spend more time with you because your energy will be different. So that is what you need to contemplate and consider. The second thing is to put boundaries around that relationship. Often when there was toxicity or issues, you as a child were never able to create healthy boundaries. What does that mean? If mother is the one that relies on you and she's feeble, set boundaries. In some cases, I've asked my clients to write a resignation letter to their parents because they have become the parent to the parent. And this is very, very regular, very often, that many of our mother wounds is that we had to be mom to mom. And so if that was your particular wound, then I suggest that after you write a letter to her, that you also send her a resignation letter, to just write it out and resign from the post of being her caretaker. Say to a mother, I love you. I really do. But I've decided to get another job as your daughter, not as your mother. I love you very much, but I will no longer mother you. And I know that you are capable of being your own woman. I'll be here for you. I love you. I will support you, but I will not mother you. And what does that mean? It's time for you to stop making decisions for your mother. It's time for you to stop getting in the way of her bad decisions. It's time for you to stop trying to protect her from the world. Even the more you protect her, the more she runs towards it. The more you protect her, the more she runs towards it. It's time for you to stop thinking that she needs you when she raised you and she's a whole adult. She did not die. She's fine. Her choices are valid. We don't always have to mother, protect, and do all of those things for mom, because we are actually harming her. Last, but by no means least, adopt a mom. For some of us, it's just too toxic. When we have followed these processes, I want you to understand something about the mother. The mother is not a female that conceives a child in her womb and brings it forth. This does not make you a mother. This makes you the person that birthed a child. We do not become mothers because we pushed in a hospital and a baby came out. Mother is a spirit. Mother is a psychology. Mother is a warmth. And one of the things I love about God is He has always provided a mother. She doesn't have to be the woman that raised you. She doesn't even have to be older than you. I am a mother to so many women that are much older than me, but they look to me as though I'm a mom. And it is my joy and my pleasure. You don't always, she could even be somebody younger than you. It's not to say go and burden her, but I'm saying that sometimes that love has always been there. Maybe an aunt or a cousin or a perfect stranger. The old lady at the reception at work. Maybe the cleaner who shows up every day and she's always smiling and she remembers to tell you that you're beautiful and that you're wonderful. Maybe it's even an influencer, somebody on YouTube who just makes you feel every time they speak to you that they can. It doesn't really matter, but adopt one and create a relationship with a mom. Just like a child can be adopted into a loving family, so also can a young woman and a woman of any age adopt a mother. I have many mothers. I needed them. Before I was able to repair my relationship with my mother, I would siphon off other people's mothers. I'm so grateful that I was brought up in a culture where you have many mothers. We don't really have aunties, we have mothers. My friend's mother is, I would call her mom. We don't have this thing. Every woman of mothering age is mom. Every woman of sister age is sis. This is how I was brought up in the community that I was brought up in. So adopting a mother was super simple. And growing up, and even as an adult, I leaned on some of my friends' mothers and they played mom. And I have moms everywhere in the world. Women that just loved me and adopted me. I have an internet YouTube mom. She's adorable. She said, Chengi, can I be your mom? I said, yes. And if you follow me on Facebook, I always call her mom. And she sends me gifts. And she comments on my stuff. And she says she's my Massachusetts mom. And I adore her. is wonderful knowing that I have many mothers. My life is full of mothering. So don't sit there and grieve the mother that your mother could not be. Perhaps open your eyes and see the many people that are dying to be your mom. In this life, there is no supposed to be. It is difficult and it is complex, and we're all broken. Mothers, daughters, children, broken. If we weren't, Christ wouldn't have needed to come and die. Because he did, we know for sure that we needed it. The good news is that we can heal, we can grow, and we can embrace healing instead of fighting it. Some of us are going to resist this because being angry makes us feel powerful. Being angry at mom makes it somehow feel like we're empowered. But maybe we're just robbing ourselves of love. Maybe we're robbing ourselves of joy. Maybe we're robbing ourselves of happiness. And I know that you deserve it. You absolutely deserve it. Please do not hesitate to contact myself or any of our coaches so we can walk you through the healing process of the mother wound. And look out for the masterclass, the actual course to healing the mother wound. And I hope and I pray that you will reach out to somebody, to a therapist, to someone, and begin this healing work. It's so important because you deserve so much love. You deserve to be whole. You deserve to be happy. So that is it from me to you. In the meantime, take care of you. Love you lots.